and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Brian and Drew. Good to have you guys. In this podcast, we just talk about our experience with our view of the higher power, how that's forming and shaping for us. I think we realize over time that it's like everyone looking at the same sculpture, but from a different view at a different time of day or different time of night. Maybe looking at it by the moonlight could be. We find that Taoist philosophy, Taoist thought, not Taoist religion, a lot of ancient writings speak to this, and they speak to our understanding of what the higher power is and how that works in our life and how it relates to our recovery. We're all in some form of 12-step recovery, and we just share our experience, strength, and hope. But before we get to our text today, two things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about a resource for you. And this is not a resource at buddyc.org, even though there's a number of things there. It's an app called Sober Sidekick. I was made aware of this app a couple of weeks ago. Really good sobriety app. They have a sobriety counter, and they have over 1 million users around the world that are just there to share their experience, strength, and hope. They do that through a post thread, and for you to post, you have to have encouraged others in their posts. So they're in 23 languages and very popular overseas, but actually a guy in California started it. I became aware of those recently, and that feeds into my synchronistic moment for today. We find that rather than us making life happen, that if we just lift our feet up and just stop fighting and pushing and stop dragging as if we're floating down the stream, that our experience is a lot easier than if we're trying to stay in the same. Let's say as a kid, we used to float in inner tubes all the time down the river, right? Different rivers. If I picked my feet up, I could float a lot easier than if I drug my feet and tried to stay in the same place. I was amazed I didn't think I was moving very much, but if I tried to stay still, it took a good bit of effort, even if the flow of the river was not that significant. It's the same in life. We learn how to lift our feet up and how to let go. We have those phrases like let go and let God. You could really say that a little differently. A lady in our group used to say, let go or get dragged. And I think that's really the operative there. We're going to get dragged if we don't let go. And what we see a lot in these writings is letting go. I had an ex-sponsee that was in town speaking at this sobriety conference and asked me to come visit him. He was in Orlando. I'm over on the coast, over on the East Coast. So I went over and met with him, and it was a conference in one big room with 10 or 12 round tables with 5 or 6 people around each table. And I know I've talked about it on the podcast that back in October, Sober Meditations, the app, they're shutting down. So I had needed to find a place for Sober Meditations. So all the meditations can be accessed at sobermeditations.org instead of on the app. If you try to go on the app and download any, it's going to give an error. And so I was looking for that, and I wasn't able to find anything. So I just said, I'm going to just let go. I'm going to quit dragging my feet. I looked online to see if there's anything there. There was nothing there that I could find that would work. So I said, okay, I've done what I can do. So next, I just let it go. I said, okay, I'll be open to what comes along. And if I came across someone that I thought might know something, I'd ask. But I didn't sweat it. I said, it'll find its place. My friend has a seat for me behind him on one of the back tables. So we come in and sit down. And it's one of those conferences they want you to write down what you expect to get out of all those things. So I wrote down the first thing I had on my list was a source, a place for sober meditations. You talk to the people around you, the lady beside me, I introduced myself. And she said, oh, I'm with an app called Sober Sidekick. And the reason I'm here is to find resources for the app. And I said, really? And the first thing on her list was to find resources like sober meditations. What had to come together for that moment to happen? It just blows my mind. I quit trying to figure that kind of thing out and just be grateful when it does. Well, we met as soon as she was in California. As soon as she got back, I met with the owner, her and the owner. We're working out the details now. And in some form or fashion, we're going to be able to hopefully soon have sober meditations resources on Sober Sidekick, which would, instead of about 2,400 downloads a month was what I was getting for sober meditations. Now it's open to 1 million plus people, or will be once we figure out how to do it. So things like that don't happen if I'm not open. My sponsee decided he was going to pursue his sobriety more through church. And so when he, I guess you could say, fired me as his sponsor, did not want me to be his sponsor anymore. It was nothing dramatic, or I could have gotten a resentment. And if I would have done that, he wouldn't have invited me over to see him, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And none of this would have taken place in the way it did. So in that regard, I would be standing in my way. And that happens so much where I am just in my way. And at times I don't even know I'm in my way. It's like everything. We don't know what selfish actions we may take that may influence things in a negative way. What little turns of the rudder on the huge ship, what eventually changes in destination that those bring about. And the opposite of that, when we act in love or act compassionately, just have the intent of being helpful, what little actions we take also turn the ship in a different ultimate destination. So I have to be conscious of that. I'm excited about that. I was wanting a home. A lot of people were using it and I didn't know what to do with it. I could have got I didn't call when they sent me an email 1st of October, said discontinued the 1st of November. Gosh, shit, what am I going to do? I've got all these people that it's helping. How, all that kind of thing, taking the responsibility for it back. Even if I'm coming from what I think is a good motive, if I'm holding on, if I'm pushing and striving, doesn't mean I do some work, which I did. I looked, everything was $80 to $300 a month for an app, move all 400 meditations over, all kinds of work, which I don't have time to do at the moment. It would take probably a week of solid work to get everything moved and done. So I had to let it go. So many things in life that we can take the same approach to. Do what we can, do what's in front of us to do, and we can let it go at the same time. By accepting as it is, okay, I accept that less people at the moment, are going to be helped by the podcast. By the app. I looked at the downloads and it's 1,300 downloads last month rather than 2,400. And I'm like, okay, I'm not responsible for this. This was a gift that I'm giving away. So I can't take responsibility for the gift. I'm not the origin. It was a gift to begin with. All right, our story for today, Wholeness, pages 105 and 106 out of my version of Thomas Merton's interpretation of the Chuang Tzu. Drew, you going to read for us today, sir?
Yeah. Wholeness. How does the true man of Tao walk through walls without obstruction, stand in fire without being burnt? Not because of cunning or daring, not because he has learned, but because he has unlearned. All that is limited by form, semblance, sound, color is called object. Among them all, man alone is more than an object. Though, like objects, he has form and semblance, he is not limited to form. He is more. He can attain to formlessness. When he is beyond form and semblance, beyond this and that, where's the comparison with another object? Where's the conflict? What can stand in his way? He will rest in his eternal place, which is no place. He will be hidden in his own unfathomable secret. His nature sinks to its root in the One. His vitality, his power, hide in secret Tao. When he is all one, there is no flaw in him by which a wedge can enter. So a drunken man, falling out of a wagon, is bruised but not destroyed. His bones are like the bones of other men, but his fall is different. His spirit is entire. He is not aware of getting into a wagon or falling out of one. Life and death are nothing to him. He knows no alarm. He meets obstacles without thought, without care, takes them without knowing they are there. If there is such security in wine, how much more in Tao? The wise man is hidden in Tao. Nothing can touch him.
Thank you, Drew. We've not seen this in this so apparent and application to recovery as in this one.
Yeah, those lines are about as direct as it gets. Subtle as a hammer to the head.
He's comparing.
Drew's getting all spiritual on us right out of the gate.
He's comparing the ease that we get with alcohol with the ease we get from the Tao. For those unfamiliar, the Tao is just another word for God. A lot of people would look at it that way. Or you could look at it as love, compassion, compassionate living, which if God is love, that would be the same thing. That's why alcohol is called spirits. It is a substitute. God is not a substitute for alcohol. Alcohol is a substitute for God. We see a lot of references to that in the big book, too.
Buddy, the title is Wholeness. The alcohol or whatever you're poisoning could be a substitute to fill that God-sized hole.
Sure could.
Or that missing piece of the pie.
I want to read something from the big book. If you ever go to AA meetings like I do, and I imagine other recovery meetings too, promises are probably read. I don't know if they read at the beginning of other 12-step meetings. I know some do, but we read these at the first of every meeting. And we could always look at them and think of how alcohol or our drug of choice could apply to the promises. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, I'm on page 83 of the big book. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. Now, I was amazed way before I was half into a drunk. Going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Yeah, I did temporarily. Not regret the past nor shut the door on it. That's a lot of the reason I drank was to numb myself from the past. I will comprehend the word serenity and will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. This is a big one. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Yes, my attitude and outlook totally changed when I had a few drinks. Oh, this is a big one too, and I'm skipping some that I don't think apply, by the way. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We'll suddenly realize that alcohol is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Yeah, those are some of the promises that alcohol did do that for me temporarily. So comparing alcohol for me, alcohol, to the higher power, the Tao, yeah, is a good comparison. It was temporary, but it did work for a time. All right, let's go back and look at this just line by line and see what we can see in this. Y'all just join in whenever it's just the three of us. So, how does the true man of Tao walk through walls without obstruction and stand in fire without being burnt? Not because of cunning or daring, not because he has learned, but because he has unlearned. How do I stay sober now past when before, no matter how hard I tried until I worked the steps in my life and learned really how to let go and how to surrender. Until then, I could not stay sober, but now I can. For me, that would be the standing in fire without being burnt or walking through walls without obstruction.
Something that reminds me of is how especially with my chronic pain condition, when it flares up, I can be in pain, but I cannot suffer. I can feel the fire in my body, but I don't feel like I'm being burnt.
Yes.
The suffering is mental, really. Not that I'm not suffering in a way when I'm in a lot of physical pain, but in the past, when I've really suffered from it, the suffering is in my mind. It's me wishing things were different than they were. It's me just ruminating and being envious of people who are physically healthy at the moment. And living in my mind, of course, prevents me from doing the things that I need to do to help myself feel better. Prevents me from staying hydrated or staying off my feet or something like that. I think that's unlearning, clearing my mind when I can be in pain but have a clear mind, appreciate what I do have and be grateful for the help that I get, and put my attention on the cat that's in my lap, or just read a book or something, make the most of the time while I'm in pain. Then I can be in the fire but not get burnt by it.
A dog would probably help you more than a cat, Drew, just saying. Just messing. Drew, what you're talking about is adding to the pain, right? You're adding to it, and you suffer because you're adding to the pain. Not that pain's not a form of suffering, or not belittling pain, but it's, if we can start with the things we're adding to the pain, that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's really the difference between acceptance and not accepting, non-acceptance. When I can accept that I'm feeling pain, then I'm feeling pain in my body. What do I need to do about it? How do I go about continuing to live my life in accordance with my values while being stuck on the couch for 2 weeks?
The closest I've experienced to that is at the dentist. And I've tried, when I go to the dentist, I had some dental work done last year. And instead of escaping or wishing I wasn't there, I just was with what was going on. I don't know if it helped, but I definitely did not have all the angst before because I was just trying to be present while I was there too, before, during, and after.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard quotes talk about suffering being optional.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I've never read Man's Search for Meaning. I know I need to, written by the Holocaust survivor, about how people in the concentration camps, obviously that was some of the worst conditions people have lived in ever. but some of the people there weren't suffering. They weren't joyous and dancing and all that, but they were accepting that's where they were, and by accepting that's where they were, they could help other people, and they could be a little bit of hope for others.
Drew, what I recall from that book, which I'd recommend for everyone to read, what I recall is that he noticed that those that were encouraging others and sharing the food they had and what they had with others were the ones that survived.
Mm-hmm.
And survived with more ease mentally than the others.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what we learn in recovery.
Yeah. Be in the giving mindset instead of the getting mindset.
Yeah. Who can I help? Even in the worst of situations. It always gets my mind off of me.
Mm-hmm.
And they call that unlearning. He says that if it's not because a true man of Tao learned more, it's about things falling away rather than adding to. It's about just setting your agenda aside and how can I be helpful in this situation? If you want to be helpful, I was talking about this somewhere. I think in my book study group, something came up and they started comparing they were pushing back against being helpful as there were some friends who wanted to go to Africa on some sort of mission trip, and they did not know whether it'd be good for them to go or not. And I'm thinking, how in the world did you get from being helpful to sending someone to Africa? What was that leap? And I'm like, oh, they think it's in this mind thing of huge things so that you don't have to do it, or that you pushing back by making something so great you can't do it. That kind of a thinking, not different than I used to do, till I realized it was not about any of that. It was just about, in this moment, how can I be helpful? If my wife is fussing at me in this moment, if I were married, what is she really asking? What is she afraid of? Why? What how can I be of help to her right now? Do I need to take responsibility for something I've done? Do I need to just listen? That's a whole different attitude. I'm getting in the car and I'm driving down the road. Do I push someone that's not going as fast as I think they should? Or do I just leave? For me, I know I'm moving into that when on my car I can decide whether I'm very close, medium, or far off when the cruise control. When I bump that cruise down to keep bumping it to where it gets down as close as it can to them, and then I push it a little more. Yeah, that's when I know that Buddy's not being helpful. So I have to unlearn. Is there another way of looking at this as a way I can unlearn? Am I seeing clearly what's really going on? That's unlearning for me. You may be right. I thought I was always right and you were always wrong, because if you were right, oh wait, if I'm right, if you were not wrong, I would be changing what I think because I'm always right. No, I'm not always right. And when I wasn't right, I always had an excuse why I wasn't right. No, sometimes I'm just wrong.
Buddy, for me, man, I know when I start digging in, that's when I'm lost.
Yep.
Yeah. Man, when I had to go down to, first off, when I had to go down and pick Jacob and his buddies up, my comment to him was, let me know when I want to come. I'll come get you, but I don't want to be driving at night. And of course, he calls at 3:30 and informs us that the power's been off for 12 hours and it's starting to get really cold in there. And I could have said, I told you I wasn't coming at night, yada. But all I said was, okay, I'm going to come get y'all. And of course, I get them back. It's like I've had these things along the way of I could have had resentment He doesn't want to be here. He wants to be doing the college kid thing in his apartment with his girlfriend and buddies. And instead, he's here in an extra bedroom. And
not with his girlfriend.
no, she's here. She's here.
Okay.
And it's just been, he hasn't been happy here. And man, I got up that morning and I was like, the next morning, I was like, what in the hell am I going to do? And then it just came to my mind. It was just all I could do is be of service and try to give them some sense of normalcy, because it's not that they don't want to be here. It's just everything's been turned upside down with them. And it would be the same way for me. And then I get through that and I feel like we've had a good week. And so I'm on a meeting yesterday and there's a girl that shares that she was moving into her first apartment. And during the move, she falls down the stairs and breaks her shoulder. So that puts an end to the move. And then she's back at her parents, not only back living with her parents, now she's living with her parents with her dominant arm in a sling, having to be taken care of, and how disappointing that was. And that really, man, it was what I knew deep down inside. I was just like, damn it. And so it was good for me to hear that. But back to the topic, I've just tried to be of service, tried to be loving and caring and understanding, and happy when they're making pancakes at night and laughing in the kitchen, not worried about them making a mess or doing it right. Because I'm a pancake expert, you know.
You're a recovering pancake expert.
Recovering pancake expert, yeah.
Yeah. All that is limited by form, semblance, sound, color is called object. Among them all, man alone is more than an object. Though like objects, he has form and semblance, he is not limited to form. He is more. He can attain formlessness. What did John the Baptist say? I must decrease so he can increase. Same principle. We have a lot of quotes on emptiness and formlessness. And that formlessness is, for me, is the surrender of how I think things should be, the surrender of myself, the surrender of self. That is being beyond form, being beyond my learning, being beyond what I think I know, my willingness, my willpower, my abilities, living beyond that. When he is beyond form and semblance, beyond this and that, where is the comparison with any object? Where is the conflict? What can stand in his way? Now, I think they're talking about the oneness of things. For me, this manifests in my realization that we're all one, that we're all connected. That's why when I help you, it's not that I get rewarded for helping you or being helpful to you, or what verbiage you want to put on it. I'm not rewarded for that. I am actually helped when I help you, because we're the same. We're all one. It's all one moment, whenever present moment, that we're all here together and the same. Like the one frame of a film strip, an old film strip. That one frame would be that present moment, and it's just a continuation of that always. Is anything that is outside of that that one frame? No, it's all there. That's the what is, in the way that I can start to see it. He will rest in his eternal place. It's interesting. Once we start seeing it all as one, the first thing he talks about is rest. He will rest in his eternal place, which is no place. He will be hidden in his own unfathomable secret. His nature sinks to its root in the one. His vitality, his power hide in secret Tao. When he is all one, there is no flaw in him by which a wedge can enter. What this reminds me of is that at times I'm able to see things differently. I love the month of January in A Course in Miracles because every day has a lesson. And January is all about seeing things differently. Can I see this differently? Can I see that differently? And it really helps to have the realization that how I see things may not be the way things really are. Can I stop fighting so that I may be able to see things differently? Lately, my prayer, ongoing prayer has been to stop resisting the moment. So when I did not realize, and I'm just now starting to see a little of it, how much I constantly resist the moment, how much I constantly push against what is, wanting it to be different. And I was in meditation and just came to mind, even sitting in meditation, this should be different. That underneath, way down near the root, as this story's talking about, I'm always pushing that this should be different or that, or I don't like this about me, or anything you want to fill in the blank was there. So I've been working on just lowering that resistance. And when something would come to mind, I just take a moment inwardly or even verbally if I'm by myself, I stop resisting blank. I do not resist blank. I allow blank. I welcome blank. Whatever it is that I'm resisting. For me, that's what leads to the formlessness, because the form is buddy. In my world, the form is buddy. And when I'm there, there's a wedge cannot be driven into the moment or into the consciousness. And for me, this is seen by when I defend or I attack. If someone attacks me about something, I am learning not to respond. Had a conflict, had a sponsee that I ended up firing, and he started attacking me because it was the whole reason why it was not working. So he started trying to rope me in, right? And I thought, I don't have to defend myself anymore, even if I'm accused of something I'm not doing. I don't have to straighten him out. Man, that's a huge leap. That's a huge move forward. Brian?
My youngest son is very much like unrecovered Brian in many ways, and puts me in a lot of fear. And I can get in a lot of fear. I can get in resentment, and man, I can get into that. I'm gonna double down and teach him a damn lesson, and that does not work with him. And there's been several times this week that I've just had to not pick up the rope and just accept it for what it is. There's been a few times I've had to remind my wife or us to give each other that look and say, just let it go. This is not the hill we want to die on. How can I be empty and accept it and realize that he has his own higher power and he's on his own path?
There are times when we teach our kids lessons, especially when they're younger.
Yeah.
But there are times when that's not the right approach. And finding that balance.
Realizing when somebody's ears are open. What's that saying about taking the cotton out of your mouth or taking it out of your ears and putting it in your mouth?
Yeah, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah. There's got to be more of them. Phrases.
Drew?
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a couple days ago. I came home from work after being stuck at home for a few days, and there was a bunch of stuff that needed to be done around the house, just picking up and cleaning up, things like that. And I was going about that. My wife was still at work, but I was just doing chores, and I was fine doing them, picking up in the kitchen and cleaning up here and there, and had a list of things I needed to do. And I was in a good mood doing all of them. And my wife texted me and said, "Hey, a coworker of mine's coming over for a few minutes after work. Can you please clean up the house?" And that just ticked me off. I don't know why it did, but she was asking me to do the things I was doing already, and I was in a good mood when I was doing them out of my own volition. And then she asked me to do them, and I just got all ticked off about it. And it went from being something that I was just fine doing to now I had resentments about it. And I realized a few minutes into it, that's what was going on. I didn't get out of that resentment stage for a little while, but just a wow moment. That's where I went to, is being fine with doing these chores and stuff to when I got asked to do them.
Commanded, Drew. She commanded you.
Yeah, it wasn't an ask. So just still showed me that I don't have it all figured out yet. I still got some.
You disappoint me, Drew. I'm very disappointed.
Man cards on. You got a probation mark on your man card.
Yeah, Drew. Yeah, I tell you.
Yeah, I get stuff like that.
You know how you can kill that, don't you, Drew? Text her back, "I love you, honey, and I'd be happy to do it. Thank you for reminding me." The opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah.
My wife got me a yes dear button for Christmas. And I call it our codependency button, but you can hit it. It says, that's a great idea. I'm glad you thought of that. Sure, I'd be glad to. If you're happy, I'm happy.
Thank you for sharing your opinion.
Yeah.
That's the Facebook form of that.
I had a telemarketer call me one time, and they were like, I said, "I'm not interested." And the lady told me, she said, "We would really value your opinion." And I said, "My wife tells me my opinion doesn't matter all the time," which she doesn't. And she got a kick out of that.
Thanks, guys. Let's read the rest of this. And we've already talked about how this analogy, but they use the analogy of the drunken man. And it is true that if you're drunken in a car accident, you're much less likely to be injured. And the reason is the same thing we're talking about, but physically, you let go. You don't fight what's going on. And when you don't fight and you just go with what's happening, you have less injury physically. And spiritually, it's the same thing. The work is in learning how to go with the flow, not learning how to fight the flow or make the flow go different, because the flow for me is always happening. I want to say to my benefit, or it's the best thing going. Maybe we could say that. The flow is always that. The flow could also be interpreted as the will of God. It's what is. If everything's as it should be, then how could what is not be the will of God? Even if we don't think that, which I don't know if it is or not, it's the only thing we have is the moment. So the more I stop fighting what is, then I can make and clearly see if there's something for me to change or not, like the serenity prayer talks about.
I like the analogy from the Tao Te Ching of the young tree that can bend in the wind versus the stiff tree that breaks when a strong wind comes.
Yeah.
All about flexibility.
I remember Wayne Dyer talking about, he lived in Hawaii, and how the palm trees bend.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't, they would break with the wind. Yes, thank you, Drew. So a drunken man falling out of a wagon's bruised but not destroyed. His bones are like the bones of other men, but his fall is different. Huh. He still falls, but it's different. We fail at times, even when we learn from Taoist text talks about sometimes sometimes what appears to be success is failure, and sometimes what appears to be a failure is success. And we never know which is which.
Buddy, that could be one of those Mr. Magoo moments, one of those synchronistic moments.
Sure could. So we learn to accept failure as just another moment, not add to it like you were talking about, Drew. Suffering, we suffer because we add to the moment, regardless of if it's pain or not. So we add and then we suffer. So can we just accept this moment for what it is? If it's a fall, okay. But with that attitude, our fall is different. His spirit's entire. He is not aware of getting into a wagon or falling out of one. I have had times when I have been recognized for acts of service in recovery that I wasn't even aware was going on. Like I reacted a particular way and someone noticed and they brought it to my attention. And I was like, what? I wasn't even aware. It wasn't like something you would do. And it was and I don't recall exactly, but what I recall is it was something really notable that if somebody wanted to do something to look like they were all that, it would be something they would want to do. But instead, I just reacted from a compassionate nature at that time. And so I wasn't even aware it was going on. And I think that's what we learn eventually is living in this compassionate nature. These things can happen and not even bother us. It's not even part of what we gauge as good or bad, even. Could be anything. It talks next about life and death are nothing to him. That could be success and failure, if you wanted to look at it that way. He knows no alarm. He meets obstacles without thought, without care, takes them without knowing they're there. If there's such security in wine, how much more in Tao? The wise man is hidden in Tao. Nothing can touch him. Am I hidden in Tao? That's the place of rest. It doesn't say that I hide myself. It's almost like I see the wise man is hidden in Tao is the fact that he's following this way of life, he's automatically hidden. The way I see it, it's past his abilities to do, which is the whole nature of Tao anyway that we find is letting, allowing. In recovery, we could say the next right action. And when we don't know what the next right action is, what do? We rest until we do. We don't have to go out there and stir it. We don't go out and push. We can rest once we've exhausted right actions in that way. Like sober meditations. I did everything I knew to do. And then I said, okay, maybe something will come along. Maybe it won't. I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not going to get into all of that. Right now, I'm just going to just be open. And those circumstances worked to give us a good opportunity. Now, let's say that doesn't work. Does that mean I, quote, miss God? No. That just means opportunities are coming my way. And another one will come my way because I'm no longer dragging my feet. I'm going with where the river's taking me. Then eventually, instead of sitting through the inner tube with your feet down, you end up sitting up where you're fully above the water. You change your position so that you sit in it instead of sit through it. And so then it's almost impossible to drag. If you keep from grabbing something with your arms, you're good. It's much less likely you'll drag. And that's what happens to us. Our position changes too. Let's say I'm not hidden and I'm bouncing around and I'm full of drama and I have no peace. What do I do? How do I start? If you're in 12-step recovery, you start by working the steps, you get a sponsor, you do what's suggested, and you work the steps. Start surrendering to those fears that have bound you, that you've pacified all these years. Then you realize that alcohol or your drug of choice was a symptom. It was not the real problem. You thought it was a problem, but it wasn't. It was a symptom. The real problem was you, the fear that you always pacified. That's the real problem. So we start surrendering to those things. We find out that we have this love nature that was there all the time that we could never experience or didn't even know was there. For me, it's not that God fills me, it's that God's already there, just covered up. And my real job is to remove the things that are blocking that drop of love that's in all of us from the same ocean. And as we do that, we eventually realize that this love nature, this compassionate nature is there, and it becomes easier and easier to choose to be helpful or choose love over fear. It's a process and it takes time, but we can start where we are in this moment. Just like our fears, there's not that, if we keep it in the moment, there's not much there to really surrender to, nor is it much that we have to do to be helpful in this moment. We can add all kinds of things to it, sending folks places and then how we're going to support them for the next 3 years, blah, 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 blah. We're already out of the moment. What can I do right now? Who can I encourage? If I have a family member of a friend pass, when I go to the funeral home and visit, first, do I go? Yes. Secondly, do I try to explain to them what I think is happening? No. I just love on them. That's much different. Now, can we approach all of life in the same way, as if we're visiting a grieving friend? We see in recovery, we see the examples of they're sick people too.
But there's that quote in the big book about treating them like they're a sick friend.
Yes. And we're talking about suffering. Everyone's suffering.
In some way.
Yeah, because unless we are really attuned to this way of life, I'm really attuned, we're all suffering to some extent. We're all adding our form to things that prevent the formless from really showing itself in our lives.
You know, I was thinking this earlier in the week. I've shared before, I've always made my last dollar, and my work is a lot of I used to be a real workaholic. I would work 7 days a week, and it was fear. And I'm not there anymore, but long story short, this week, about Tuesday, I'm like going, okay, what am I doing? Not going to work. We got snow and ice. Brian, you're not going to fight your way up there by yourself. And come hell or high water, get something done. And so I just let go. And then I'd got a couple orders in, and I was like, okay, I got those orders, and I could feel that itch. And I just thought, I'm going to put these things off until this clears. And so the other day I decided I was going to do a little book work from home. And so I worked from here and proxied into the office. And I thought, man, I'm just going to look and see where I'm at for the month. And then I realized that I was okay. The first 3 weeks of this month have been really good, and we can afford to take a week off. And then it just hit me. I was like, now I got these things. I'll be back to work Monday. It'll be a new month, and I can start off on a good foot next month. And so it was just letting go of that fear. And it was wearing on me because every time I look out the window, there's 4 inches of ice and snow everywhere, and it's not going anywhere, you know.
You could have fought that and just been tied up in knots the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, I decided this week I was going to reread the 12 and 12. So,
oh, good.
Yeah, so I pulled it off my shelf and been reading it some and taking some naps, rubbing on my dog.
Yep, I'm in my last week in Florida. I'm headed back to Georgia and Alabama on Wednesday. So I was thinking, I haven't seen my family half as much as I wanted to when I was down here, but I realized, hey, everyone's got life going on. So I'll just fit in when I can and stop trying to stress making every moment a moment of seeing someone. And it's helped. It's helped. But just that stepping back in whatever it is going on, good, bad, regardless, always works for me. Always. Guys, anything else before we close? Y'all have a great week. Hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.